What's going on, guys? Today we got a little painting video lined up here. I recently discovered the McFarlane Toys line of the Warhammer 40K figures. They're like 7 inches tall. I've got 3 of them. Today we're going to be doing the Chaos Space Marine, and I also got the Lieutenant Titus, I think is what it was called, and then this big orc mech. I forget what that was called, but I got 3 of them to try out different methods and things with. But today we're going to do a simple black primer after we disassemble this guy. And once that dries, we're going to do some airbrushing. First time on the channel I've done airbrushing. So I'll be using a Pache airbrush. I got it from my art teacher in high school, and it's worked fine for a long time, and so I got that back out. Had to patch the hose up and stuff, but got it running again, so I'm excited to get back into a little bit of airbrushing here and there, especially for 40K stuff. But so we're gonna try to see if we can get this guy really nice detail painted and an awesome piece to put on a shelf for display. We're also going to be making a custom base for this figure with some rubble and rust and, dirt and some nasty, stuff from war on the base, and maybe have him doing like a Captain Morgan stance with one of his feet up on something and then pointing his gun out. Okay guys, this is the figure here. You can see he comes with a handgun there. You can see he's got some nice details. Comes with a hammer, a spiked hammer. Lots of skull motifs on this Chaos Space Marine. This cloth is actually like rubber plastic. It's not real cloth. Got some cool emblems on his armor. But this guy is completely posable. Lots of points of articulation, so it should be fun to display this guy and paint him up. There's lots of details, lots of little highlight areas for us to explore. So we're gonna see how many pieces we can get him taken apart into without breaking anything, and get the black primer sprayed on. Alright, so as you can see here, we've taken them apart into a bunch of pieces that will be easier to paint one piece at a time, and also the paint will get to the areas that couldn't have been gotten to if it was assembled. So the only pieces that I was not comfortable with removing without like putting this in hot water or hitting it with a heat gun or anything were the feet. So I'm just going to keep the feet on the legs and paint them while they're on there. I think that's going to work out fine. But each and every one of these little pieces here I can take individually and put them on a little spin stick while I'm painting it, and really be able to detail paint each little piece more easily than I could have with the entire figure assembled. So we're going to get a coat of black primer on all these and wait for that to dry, and then we'll be ready to put some color on. Okay, so the method I'm doing this here is pretty simple. I've just got them all laid down flat on a scrap piece of cardboard that I've, as you can see, have used for previous spray painting projects. And we're going to cover this with the black matte primer. And then we'll wait for that to dry and flip them and do the back sides to all of these. So guys, take my word for it and don't get the super duper cheap, like $2 a can spray paint at Walmart. Go for something a little more expensive like Rust-Oleum. We're using the Rust-Oleum flat black primer, and but I have got the cheap kind, and it takes like 4 to 5 cans to do what one can do with just slightly more expensive paint. So it's kind of a waste of money to get the really cheap stuff. Always give these a really good shake, and another tip is to get them warm in some hot water. Just fill a bucket of hot water and set this down in it for 5 to 10 minutes, maybe longer, and it will spray so much smoother. So that is a way to get more out of your cans of spray paint. Alright guys, another couple tips about spray paint, especially on small things that have little tiny details. If you spray too long in one spot, you're going to get drippage and pooling, and that's just where the paint becomes too thick in that area, and it will fill in and completely destroy any little tiny details. So instead of pointing at something and spraying at it, you want to start off your subject and drag into it. And you want to be spraying about 10 inches away at least for this type of stuff. And you want to put light coats on. You don't want a really heavy stream of paint that's going to fill in little tiny details. And short little bursts also help. You can see it don't take much to really put some color on there. So we're going to hit this at every angle we possibly can from this side, and then we will do the same after this dries, and we'll flip them. Okay guys, so taking our time and slowly going around at every angle, we've covered it completely in the black matte spray paint. So we're going to let this dry, and then we'll go through and flip them and get all the spots we missed. Alright guys, so we've got them all flipped over. You can see the undersides there haven't been painted. We're going to paint this side and let that dry, and then we're going to be doing each piece individually. Let's get this primer finished up here. Okay guys, so we'll come back in a few hours after this is completely cured, and then we'll paint each individual piece separately. Alright, so I have hot glued screws onto these parts so that I can spin them while I'm painting, and we're going to hit them all with one color, like a main color first, which is going to be red for the armor with gold trim, I've decided. So first step here, I'm going to hit all of these with red on the armor parts. I'm not going to pay so much attention to the stomach parts or the parts that don't have to be red. And the weapons will probably be all, well, the weapons will probably be silver on the metal-y parts, and then like brown on the handle parts to start with, just for base color. And then I'll go in with detail after all of the airbrushing is done. It's just a quick way to get a lot of color on at once, instead of going through and brushing it all on. My mixture might be a little weak. I mixed this with water, so this was the first time I was trying this. I might have to make the mixture a little bit stronger on the paint side. Trying to finish this piece up here. Okay, so we've got our first coat of red. I'm using Vallejo paint, and I went by a suggestion to mix it half and half with water. That might be a bit much for this. It's kind of runny, like it's not, the saturation is not there as well as I would like, so I'm going to mix it with not quite half and half after this dries and see if that gets us some better coverage and less running and pooling going on. Alright guys, so you can see right here that this is the result of the one layer of the watered down paint. I might have watered it down too much, so I made a little bit of a stronger mixture here of paint and water, so let's see how this covers. Okay, I definitely think we're going to have more pigmentation with this coat, so maybe we can get by with not having to do 2 coats on the rest of it with this mixture. And in the, you can see in the recesses there, that super bright red color, that's going to be fixed later with some wash to re-darken the shadowy areas. Right now we want a nice bright pigmented color for the whole suit. Careful not to let it drip or pool. Case any of that needs to be red.
It looks green on camera.
It's the reflection of the leaves outside. This is silver. This is dark gunmetal. Silverish gray. Trust me. Okay? Trust me. Shiny.
It looks like it belongs to a mermaid.
No. This is a Chaos Space Marines mace. Skanky. Whoa, had a mishap. Alright guys, so here we have all of them airbrushed in the base color. We did the head in bone white with a little red added to make it kind of fleshy colored. And the rest is in the red. And we did the metal parts of the gun and the hammer with dark gunmetal. So the rest is going to be in the house at my desk. We're going to do the detail painting with brushes on the rest of it. We'll also be adding some washes on certain areas as well. Alright guys, so we've got a chunk of plywood here for the base, and the plan is I'm going to layer this with expanding foam and let that expand, and come back with a multi-tool later on. Excuse my dirty paint nails, I've been airbrushing earlier. It's a huge dragonfly in here, but anyways, take a multi-tool, power tool, and shape the foam. And I also have this busted brick It's like a busted garden brick that I will be placing on here to look like rubble for one of his feet to stand on. And this will have rebar hanging out. I'll probably make that out of wires and hot glue some of that together. I'll also be putting some ash and dirt on this with a layer of wood glue and letting that cure, so it's a really realistic you know, ruins, you know, war scene, like a broken down building type thing. But right now we're going to cut this down to size and make it a little more, you know, uniquely shaped. So I'm just going to take all of the edges off. I've already cut it once. I cut this shorter, it was much longer. And I'm going to cut all the corners at a 45, and that'll give us a nicer shape, I think. Okay, and there we have our nice shape for the base. So we can go ahead and put the expanding foam on this and have that setting up for us. Okay, we're going to give this a quick sand just to round over the edges a tad and make it look more professional, and so everything adheres to it better. Okay, there's our finished wooden platform, so let's go ahead and put some spray adhesive on here, or expanding foam rather. I'm going to stay away from the edge by about an inch or so all the way around, just for the simple fact that the foam will probably fill that in and might even spill over the edges. And I think it'd be easier in the long run if I put a space there to keep it from being so messy and so much to trim off. I'm doing this just to build some bulk up on the bottom here of the base, so that it's not just a flat, like paper thin base with a bunch of stuff stacked on it. I want it to be a little more substantial. So using this multi-purpose foam, it's premium white. All of this is going to be primered in black after it's all glued together and everything, and then brush detail painted afterwards, so the color really doesn't matter. But this stuff expands quite a bit, so we'll just lay down a layer along the sides here. And this stuff adheres to what it touches. It's almost impossible to get this off of your hands if you get exposed to this on your hands, so best to wear gloves. That is actually, I might want to come a little closer just in case to the edge. And this will expand, and then we can kind of carve this with a little saw tool I will show you guys later on. Alright guys, so we've done all the airbrushing, and we've got our base color on here. For the most part it was red, and we did do some bone white on the head and some silver on the guns, or on the gun and the hammer. So I've still got them on these little glued screws here, so I can spin them as I'm detail painting. So I'll show you guys a quick list of things I've got for the next step here. So we've got a cheap set of all media paintbrushes from Walmart. So this is everything down to like tiny little fine details to covering a larger area and everything in between that we could need for this. I never get expensive paintbrushes. I find a lot of use and luck out of using the very cheapest paintbrushes I can find. We're going to be using this stipple brush here, or this stipple sponge rather, and this is to make dirt and rust spatter on the armor plates. And I've got a cup of water, I've got a paint palette here to put our different colors we're using. We got all the colors from Vallejo's game color set. So this is the entry set, I think is what they call it, or the setup, the like beginning, their starter colors. So you've got the primary colors, you know, orange and brown and green. Also, you've got some metallics like silver and gold. We've got leather colors. We've got bone white here, which is what we made our skin color out of, except we added a little bit of red. So I actually purchased this same set years ago. I still have some of those. And this is what they used to look like. It's the same brand and the same product, except they've changed the labels, and I heard someone say on a forum somewhere that their actual paint mixture has changed a bit. But we're about to see about that. So far it's been roughly the same that I remembered, but you can see here this is gunmetal, and then this is dark gunmetal. So you can see the difference of the labeling there that they changed to. Let's see, silver, stonewall gray. So I don't think their base set even comes with gunmetal anymore. They kind of changed a few of the colors around. But those are the paints we're going to use. I also have some Reaper paint here, some Master Series. This stuff is like older than dirt. Like, I've had this for a long time, but this is washes. We've got a brown wash for like fleshes or leather. We've got a actual flesh wash. So this is for the flesh tones. This is for more of like leathers and things. And then we've got a black wash, which is the most important one in my opinion. This one, basically, it runs down into all the recesses, speaking of washes, and it highlights, or shadows rather, all of the low-lying places, and it makes the details pop more easily than like pinpointing where you need to do this and doing it by hand. You can just kind of brush this over a project and it kind of does that for you. So that's what we have at our disposal. We're going to get started here and probably do the torso first, and we'll go piece by piece until we've got this guy fully painted. Alright guys, so the main colors on this are going to be red, black, and gold. There may be some white highlights here and there, or lighter color highlights, but the main colors are going to be black, red, and gold. So the trim on the armor is going to be gold colored. The hoses and under armor layers here are going to be black, and the main body of the armor is red. So that's basically what we're going to go through and do before we add any kind of battle damage or dirt or rust. We're going to paint all the colors what they need to be first, and then we'll add the damage or weathering. And this particular Chaos Space Marine is going to be based, the color pattern is based off of the World Eaters. Alright guys, so first we're going to correct this overspray here, paint this all black, and we're going to paint the hoses black, and maybe a couple of these doodads here black, and the neck under armor, the stuff that looks like kind of noodly here, all of that needs to be black, so we're going to go through here and make all of that black. We can also kind of flex this backwards a little to get into the nooks and crannies if we need to. Right now we're putting on bulk color, so we're not like super focused on really tiny details at this moment. We're just trying to get everything the correct color. If you're using miniature paint and painting a full-sized action figure like this, you'll immediately notice that you're using way more paint than is normal for miniature painting. So you're gonna have to use more than just a couple of dots of paint for the entire miniature. This is gonna kind of suck up some of your paint, but it should look pretty awesome if we just use the same techniques that we use for painting our miniatures. This should turn out pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this piece with the black. I'll show you guys what that looks like, and then we'll probably switch to gold for the emblem in the on the chest. Alright guys, so this is with all the black added. I made his power pack adapter thing here black as well, just for some like color difference there. And we've got black hoses, black under armor here and around the neck. That goes around to the sub collar there. So I think I'm going to put a layer of dark gunmetal on the I-Star logo in the center of the chest, and highlight it on the high points of the main logo with gold after that dries. So I'm thinking 2 more color steps on this one, and we'll go to the next part. We put some color on here. We put the blacks, and I dry brushed silver or dark gunmetal over the black to kind of give it a little kick, some shininess to it. I also added some paint chips to the armor. I painted the emblem in the middle gunmetal gray. That's going to be gone over with gold for another layer on the star part, and then we're going to do like an orange Sauron looking eye in the middle. Alright guys, so we've added the black to all of the parts, and I also put some flesh wash on the head here along with the black parts. So we're now going to move on to the gold highlights on all the parts, and then we'll go on to the weathering and other highlighted colors. Okay guys, after 24 hours we got this expanded foam base. It expanded some, but not as much as other brands of foam that I've had in the past. But as you can see, it expanded past the edges like I thought it would. So I'm going to trim those off and take this down a little bit. There's going to be holes and little divots, but that's okay. This is only supposed to be simulating like a field of war with like broken buildings and, you know, the sort. So it doesn't have to be perfect. And I may use a hot glue gun to fill in anything that I don't like the looks of. So right now we're just going to give this a little bit of a haircut trim the sides and make it a little thinner. So this is a multi-tool here that vibrates when I turn it on. This vibrates back and forth and creates a sawing motion. Alright guys, so I'm going to keep chipping away at this here, but this is about where I want it. It's just a little slope and a little part of a battlefield here with cracks and imperfections. This will be coated with paint and texture like ashes and dirt as well. That will stick to the wood glue that I'm going to apply to this. So it's still got a lot of treatments to undergo, but getting about there where I want it to be. I might go along the edges on the bottom here and fill that full of hot glue just for it to be more cohesive to the bottom instead of having gaps. But I might be being picky about that, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm going to keep trimming on this until I get it where I want it, and then we'll go to the next step on it. Alright guys, so I have went around all of the hollow areas below the foam and have filled it with hot glue, so it's a more cohesive look once we get this painted. And now I'm going to attach these bricks on here with some hot glue, and I have to figure out how I want them to be stacked and in what way that looks the best. So we're gonna mess around with these. We also have some natural little rocks here to add for some rubble, and I've got these little copper wires that I've bent to look like rebar sticking out of these concrete slabs. So each slab, you know, a couple of the slabs will have 3 or 4 rebars sticking out of it. And after I get all that glued together for that little diorama there, we're going to hit it all with flat black spray paint. And I did have a thought. I've sprayed foam with spray paint before, and some spray paints will actually dissolve foam. If it starts doing that, it will be okay. It'll just make the ground textured, and it's going to be covered with ash and dirt. We've got a collection of small pebbles here and dirt that we're going to be texturing this with. Also some more fine sand and ashes. So that's what we've got to kind of spruce this up, but for now we're going to try to see how we want this configured. That needs some right here because that was floating a bit from the old trim. And then this is where a foot is going to set. Not sticking over too much. Maybe like this. Yeah, that's good. Alright guys, so this is the base before any paint or texturing or anything is added. We've got our concrete chunks there with rebar hanging out. One of them has a chunk of concrete still attached here and a couple of rocks up front. So we're going to hit this all with flat black primer to put a base coat on it. And then we'll go through with wood glue and attach the dirt and texturing to the entire piece. Alright guys, so we are at the step of adding gold trim to our armor and parts here. So I did a step that I didn't film much of, and that was going through and doing the blacks. And I dry brushed that with dark gunmetal for a little bit of sparkle pizzazz to make it look a little metallic. The gold here is not finished, by the way. It needs more coats, but I'm stopping like mid in the middle of doing it right here just to show you guys. And I added some shadowing to these areas under the boot as a quick fix, because when I flexed that, the spray paint couldn't get up in there when I was airbrushing it, and it was still like gray, the original color of the plastic. So I fixed it with a little bit of shadowing, and I think it looks really good. It gives it a shaded kind of look. And then here we have the head, and this is 90% finished, I would say. I still need to do some washes and some touch-ups to make this more detailed on the horn, but basically we painted it with the bone white out there with the airbrush, and then I gave it a coat of red for the mask part, and then black for the hoses and then the little breathing screen, and bone white for the horn and the teeth. And then we gave it a flesh wash, a wash with the flesh colored wash, and you can see it kind of made the details pop down inside of the scars and the little emblem on the front of his head. So I'm gonna probably go in and make the eyes white, the eyes themselves, not the eyelids or anything, and maybe put in a pupil, or maybe just go with like a Mortal Kombat Scorpion kind of eyeball where it's just all white and make him look super evil. But yeah, that is the head, almost finished. I'm gonna go through and do a little bit more work, but so for the sake of not being too repetitive, I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of the armor gold trim, and that is the update for now. Alright, so we finished up the gold color on most of the parts, and I'm going to go through all of these and put a wash over it all to dull everything down, because it's super bright right now. But that takes care of the gold, and we're going to go through and finish up what parts need to be gunmetal and brown. And we've also gone through and made the skulls white and the spikes white. So some of them have like fleshy parts, like on this power pack here, where it connects to the skull. There's like these little talons that have like flesh parts on it that I'll be putting flesh wash on. Also this like screaming demon face, we'll get some flesh wash. But it's coming together. It's getting pretty close. I still have to go through and put some silver on all the little studs on the trim and on the backpack here. But just some final little touches before we go through with the wash, and it'll be done. Okay, so here we have our base that is covered in black paint. You can see it's got 3 pieces of concrete on the top, 2 natural rocks here in the front, and we've got this nice textured pattern for the ground. It looks like scorched earth kind of pattern to it there, and that's all over the entire surface underneath of the concrete slabs. So I've decided the pose already, and we're going to dry brush this mostly. I'm not going to airbrush anything on this because I'm looking for a distinct look that I can achieve with dry brushing on the bricks and the ground. And once all the painting is done on it, the hand painting, I'm going to add the dust and dirt and ashes textures on there with some wood glue and let that set up, and then we're gonna hot glue our figure onto the top on the bottoms of his feet. He's gonna be having an action pose, kind of stepping up on the upper brick, and his other foot is gonna be like here, so he's gonna be like stepping like this and turning kind of back, aiming his gun this way, and his hammer is off this way, or his mace. So we're gonna start the brush painting on the base here. We might do some rust on the rebar. I'm not sure if we'll do that or not, because if it was a freshly demolished building, it wouldn't have really had time to rust. But I'm not sure, so we'll decide that, whatever looks better, after we get a feel of what the colors are going to look like. Okay, so here's the result after some dry brushing with some of this Stonewall gray color from Vallejo. All the painting in this video is from Vallejo's old set and their new set of their base set, I guess. And some paints from Reaper Paints, the washes that were involved in this entire video. But so this is the look that we're going for, is that textured brick look with a little bit of dry brushing here. So we're going to go through with some browns and make that less clean looking, and also cover the scorched earth here with some browns and grays before we add the texturing. So more dry brushing. I'm also going to get some metallic paint, paint the rebar sticking out, and this will take no time. Okay, so here's where it's at. We've dry brushed it with gray. We've blotted some dirt around, some brown, and we've dry brushed the entire base with some brown, 2 different shades. We had beastie brown and leather brown. I also mixed in some black to darken certain colors. And then we did some edge highlights on the rocks to show the high points, and then we did some edge highlights on the concrete slabs to show the high points on there as well. So what we're going to do next is cover the foam part with some wood glue and dust some ashes and dirt on the top. After that, we'll put some larger little pebbles around, and then it should complete the look and it should be finished, and we'll put the figure on it and that'll be a wrap. Alright guys, we're out here at the garage. Don't mind the pitter patter of rain on the roof there, but we are going to take an old paintbrush here and dip it in the wood glue and cover the entire foam base, the foam parts of the base, all over the top, everywhere where the dirt is showing. And we're going to put this ash and sand mixture. This is ashes from our wood grill, and sand and dry dirt from around the property. And after that, we're going to put some more substantial little bits of rocks and things from the road that we got. So we're going to coat it with glue and put all that on there, and it should bring it to life even more so than it already is. Alright guys, so I'll try to film some of this. I've got the wood glue applied to about 20% of the edge here. I'm going to take like a garden trowel here and just dust it over that, and it's going to stick to the glue, and the rest will blow off when I blow on it. It makes a mess, but that's why we're in the garage and not in the living room. And just cover everything that had the glue on it. With the dust. And when you blow it away, the excess, you can see the effect. Okay guys, so that is the first step complete. You can see we've got some really good sandy dirt texture going on. It's even splashed up on the rocks and the concrete here. It's the old wood glue method of attaching like moss or any kind of texture onto your Warhammer bases, except this is a lot larger scale. Same methods, just bigger. But it is all covered all the way around back. Let me give it a spin for you guys. Now, remember, as I just did here, this is still wet with wood glue, so it looks dusty and dry, but underneath it's still wet, so be careful when you're handling it. Right here, I'm going to have to do a little touch, and over here, but it is all the way around. I did it up to the baseboard and stopped, just so that there's a definite line there where the baseboard starts. You could go all the way down, but it would flake and stuff when you go to try to move it. There's nowhere to really put your fingers without messing up your texture. It's not going to be super tough. It will wipe away with enough pressure from fingers. So this is just a set down and leave it kind of thing, kind of solution. But we're going to put some larger texture on now. Hopefully it'll make it even more interesting. Now the next part, we're going to try to do little blobs and groups of the glue more loosely and more blobbed on. And whatever glue is showing through after the placement of the little stones, you can just throw some more dirt ash mixture on it. and it will cover up the mistakes and blend in with the surroundings. Okay, as you can see in this small area here, we've done the pebbles, and we've turned it upside down and let the loose ones fall off, and then repaired any visible glue with more of the wood, more of the ash dirt mixture, and it looks pretty good. Looks natural. Just do it in random clumps, and it will blend right in. So I'm gonna go around and just do that randomly all the way around the base. Alright guys, it's looking pretty good. This is a good stopping point, I would say, before we get too carried away with the rocks and the dirt. But we have very nice natural cracks in the earth. We have rocks, sand, dirt splashed up on the concrete where when this fell and the rebar stabbed into the ground and flipped around and fell over, there's dirt on the end of the rebar at some points, some places. So I am very happy with the way this base turned out. So let's get our Marine, our Chaos Space Marine, attached to it with some hot glue on the bottom of his feet, and see if we can get a good pose figured out. And without further ado, guys, this is the final product. We've got his feet anchored with hot glue. Did our best to try to hide that. That foot does not set 100% flush, but neither do ours when we're climbing over rocks and the such. But we're gonna have some nice shots without me gabbing at the end. But some comments here. So the head is washed with flesh wash. Also the fleshy parts of the weird little finger things that are holding the skulls here and there. This face had flesh on it. It had like muscular shapes, like it had skin, so I went ahead and flesh washed that as well. And I ground this up pretty good with some black dusting, dry brushing, kind of dabbing the brush around here and there to make him look grimy, and also did it with brown on some areas. And then there's some spots that don't have anything on it, so we can see the gold shining through here and there. His eyes, I went ahead and did white. And his teeth there. But this was super fun, guys. If you enjoyed watching this whole process, I'm not even sure how long this took. I would say probably 15 hours of painting and pulling apart this thing, putting it back together with the base included in that estimation. But thank you guys for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. I've got 2 more of these I've got lined up, and I'm thinking of either making a larger, like longer diorama with both of them like fighting each other or menacingly looking at each other, or just doing separate ones for each. But consider subscribing if you guys like this kind of thing. There's more coming, and I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll catch you next time.